What's up, fuck faces? It's Wednesday night, which means it's time for yet another All Elite Wrestling Dynamite review there. So, without further ado, the show just ended. I actually watched it, not live, but I caught up with my DVR because of the commercials and stuff. So, this is going to be a nice little early upload. So, yeah, the show was, in my opinion, absolute garbage. It just keeps getting worse and worse. There's really nothing to look forward to anymore. But I'm going to talk about why it was shit as I go through what happened. So the first thing we see is we have a singles match between Trent and Pac, also known as Neville and Trent Beretta from WWE. So basically, two complete and absolute jobbers just kind of starting the match off. Now, these guys are jobbers because in WWE, Neville was a pre-show guy. So that's what makes him a complete jobber. This guy is he's been completely replaced now in WWE by Buddy Murphy. They have the same exact physique, and they are soon gonna have the same fucking haircut since Buddy Murphy is growing his hair out and everything. So that's that. But it just shows how easily replaceable Pac is. Trent Beretta, let's be honest, this guy was a jobber of the worst caliber in WWE. Then he went to New Japan, became a star like everybody else who's a jobber in WWE does. So I'm not enticed by this whatsoever. Just Cody Rhodes said when they started AEW, he said, maybe 5% of the WWE roster would have a job for AEW. Really? 5%? Because you have gotten the lowest 5% of the WWE roster and you have put them in your company. And a lot of them have high profiles now. So let's go through them just a little bit. I'm not going to go through everybody because I'm quite honestly, I'm going to forget. But Goldust, he's obviously a jobber. Like these are all lower card guys. Like if they were still in the company, they would be going after R-Truth for the 24/7 title. That's it, motherfuckers. So Goldust, Trent Beretta, Jack Swagger, he was a jobber, but to be fair, he shouldn't have been. He should have been pushed in WWE. So I guess I won't count him. Cody Rhodes, he'd be going after the 24/7 title as Stardust, motherfuckers. If you think anything else would happen with him, you are sadly mistaken. Ty Dillinger, another jobber. I don't know if I mentioned Pac in this little seance right now. Another 24/7 jobber. Basically, this entire company is chock full of the worst that WWE had to offer that now have been unleashed. WWE held them back. WWE held back Trent Beretta. Trent Beretta should have been WWE champion, is what they'll tell you. But the facts speak for themselves, motherfuckers. These guys are complete and utter jobbers. So that match happened. No one gave a rat's ass. Obviously, Pac was going to win. Trent is like a tag team jobber. He has no business even being in this match. Pac is being positioned to have like a pay-per-view match, so he was gonna win. He does by hitting the black arrow. My bad. They renamed it because he's the bastard now. He hits the black arrow and then locks in the fucking brutalizer, aka the Rings of Saturn, and beats Trent. During the match, JR explains that Pac reminds him of the British Bulldog, which is the most ridiculous thing I've heard in my entire life. British Bulldog was fucking awesome. He looked like $1,000,000 and he had actual personality and charisma. Pac has the same gimmick that a lot of these people have. The I'm angry all the time gimmick, the Dean Ambrose gimmick. There's two gimmicks in this entire company. And this match in and of itself proves why gimmicks matter, right? For the same shit I've been saying about Humberto Carrillo and Cedric Alexander and Mustafa Ali and these that level of wrestler, this is the same thing. Trent Beretta and Pac are on the same level. They're not, I won't say they're worse than Mustafa Ali. They're they're the exact same thing, They're just dudes that go out there and they wrestle. The faces are always smiling and are happy to be there, and the heels are always frowning and are just angry. That's literally it. That's 95% of the roster of all wrestling right now is that. It's either I'm a good guy and I smile and love the children and I work hard to get what I want, or I'm a heel and I'm upset that other people who are faces are getting recognition when I deserve it, right? This is like just incredibly stupid. Like if you were to just replace this match completely and start with Humberto Carrillo versus Cedric Alexander, it would literally be the same thing. It would be the same caliber of moves, the same like idea. I shouldn't say Humberto Carrillo and Cedric Alexander. Let's say like Humberto Carrillo and what's like a level like a that level jobber, like a maybe like a Tony Nese, you know, someone like that who's like a heel. So it would be just that. There's nothing exciting to watch. There's nothing to look forward to. None of this is entertaining, motherfuckers. So this match felt like it meant nothing. It meant nothing, and no one won overall. I mean, obviously, Pac won, but it meant nothing. It was completely useless. These just two vanilla jobbers, and they had a vanilla jobber match. They both did their little suicide dive things, right? Like, at this point, it's not cool anymore. I remember back in the 90s when Jeff Hardy would do like a tope con hilo, essentially. It was a big deal because he was the only one doing it. So you look forward to a Jeff Hardy match and you're like, oh, he's going to do it. But in this episode, there was like 15 of those. Like every wrestler does it. There's nothing interesting about it anymore, you know? Like they got rid of Neville when he was in WWE because Neville and Austin Aries were like, oh, we work hard. We should be on the main card. No, you shouldn't. You're jobbers, right? That's why they have Buddy Murphy, who is okay with being an NXT jobber for like 15,000 years and then being a 205 live jobber for 15,000 years. And now he's being rewarded, like as I call it, the Mark Henry effect. He's being rewarded a little bit with a tiny push. This will, of course, amount to absolutely nothing. Buddy Murphy is going to be a jobber for the rest of his career. But, you know, at least he gets a little bit of recognition. You know, at least like he gets mentioned by people. So that's what I had to say about that. Next up, also, sorry, I forgot. In this match, which lasted way too long, Orange Cassidy did his thing. He did like essentially the yes kicks, but you know, the Orange Cassidy version where he just kind of like lightly kicks them and the crowd loses their mind. Now, again, every fucking week this guy does this. It always ends the same way. Eventually, the person who it's being done to, who was always a heel, gets pissed off and attacks him. And that's it. So it was a complete waste of time. I hated every second of it, motherfuckers. Next up, they hype up Cody's announcement that he was supposed to make, I guess, last week or something, but he didn't make it because he was interrupted by like Jericho and with the air horns and everything. So then we go to commercial break. After we come back, Cody makes his announcement. The announcement, like this, proves my theory that Cody Rhodes is Triple H, but just worse in every possible way. He comes out, cuts a promo of how like, I worked my ass off to be here. I'm the game. You're not the game. I'm the game. Right? And then he puts over AEW, and then he kind of just puts himself over, basically, man. And his big announcement, his self-serving announcement, was that if he were to lose to Jericho, he is not going to get another title shot, another AEW title shot, I guess forever, right? This is also, motherfuckers, straight out of the Triple H playbook. Every Triple H match nowadays is like, if you lose Triple H, your career is over. Or like in the past, it was, if you lose Triple H, then like, you can't be on SmackDown, or you can't be on Raw, or whatever the case may be. Or you will have no more title shots. We've seen this a million times before. Nothing new happened here, right? So, I mean, it would appear now, after this stupid-ass promo, that Cody Rhodes is positioned to at least win. I mean, hopefully he doesn't get the title, because if he gets the title, I don't know what numbers they're pulling on their weekly shows, but it's gonna go down. It's gonna plummet. Nobody wants to see Cody Rhodes as champion. Believe me, motherfuckers. Nobody wants that. So what I'm thinking is, it's gonna be some sort of screw job finish. Maybe like I don't know. There's some cheating involved, and someone like MJF throws in the towel for Cody and then betrays him or something, right? Or MJF betrays him and pardon me, fuckers, and it ends in some sort of disqualification. That's the way I see it going, because I really don't see how they could take the title off Jericho and give it to Cody Rhodes. It's just the most absurd thing ever. They're not on the same caliber. Then Jericho goes to explain that, Cody Rhodes goes to explain that Jericho was also born with a silver spoon in his mouth, and that he was upper middle class, all this stupid crap. Like Jericho was basically saying that like when Jericho says you're born with a silver spoon in your mouth, like the implications are clear. The implications are you don't deserve to be here. You're only here because this specific silver spoon that you were born with is a wrestling silver spoon. Like you were handed everything, including your name and your like entire personality by your father, who is a bona fide legend. Whereas Jericho, his father was an NFL athlete, but that has nothing to do with wrestling, right? Jericho had to become a wrestler by himself. In the context of being a wrestler, Jericho was not born with a silver spoon in his mouth. Jericho did not get signed to WWE when he was 19 like Cody Rhodes did. Do you understand what I'm saying? And that's what Jericho was implying, but because like the writing team, the creative team is just very stupid in AEW, and presumably Jericho can't sit down and explain these nuances to them, they come up with this idiotic promo of like, oh, you also had money growing up. Like that's nothing to do with it. That's not the silver spoon he was talking about. He's talking about how he's an entitled millennial and that he feels entitled to be a champion, which is fucking accurate because he's Dusty Rhodes' son. One of my friends who's like a big smart, he told me once that apparently Dusty Rhodes had bought this watch, maybe like a Rolex or something for Cody, that he planned on giving Cody when Cody won either the WWE or the World Heavyweight title in WWE, right? And unfortunately, Dusty Rhodes passed, so he couldn't fulfill this promise, right? But Dusty Rhodes was convinced that Cody would be champion. He was wrong, motherfuckers. The AEW title does not count. So then they have this inner circle package. This was pretty fun. It was very consistent with like Jericho's new like goofy like the bubbly character, right? It showed like I think it was Virgil. They called him like Soul Train Jones or something like that, saying that Jericho was the GOAT. They had this old bag. She was like it said that she was like Jericho's aunt's friend from church. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I enjoyed that. It was funny. The fans liked it. Like they had a thing where Sammy Guevara, who JR keeps calling Sammy G now. I don't know if it's because JR can't remember the name, or because JR can't pronounce the name, or because they're just trying to switch him to Sammy G. But it's stupid as fuck. So, but Sammy Guevara in the little vignette, he says Jericho is 48. He is the youngest AEW champion ever, which I thought was actually pretty brilliant because they always do that with titles, like youngest champion this, oldest champion that, like longest reigning. Jericho is like, because he's the only one, he holds all those distinctions, which is fantastic. So that was pretty entertaining, I thought. What else? Just a side note real quick. JR continues his consistent burial of this company. Every week, he talks about how the guy should hook the leg because he won't get a 3 count if he doesn't hook the leg. A bunch of he just pretty much makes AEW seem amateurish, right? And sometimes, once in a while, JR will be like, wow, this guy's got a lot of talent. But I'm just like, but it feels so forced because you can tell that he's like at a loss for words because this isn't real wrestling. You know what I mean? Like this isn't like the storytelling type wrestling that they had when JR was in WWE. So he's like, I don't know what to say. So I'll just point out all the technical flaws of everyone in these matches, right? And again, one of the reasons why JR can't do his job correctly is because there are no gimmicks, right? Some of JR's greatest moments involve things like who was it? Like Stephanie McMahon just called Stone Cold a slut, or who was it? Or The Rock called Stone Cold a slut, you know? Something like that, right? Where you need a larger-than-life character to push that narrative. Or you need the Dudley Boys to put women through tables so that JR can say those damn Dudleys, you know? Like, so he can actually emote a little bit, right? Even something as dumb as, like, if you had Val Venus as a porn star, JR can just talk about that. He can be like, oh, like Val Venus, you know, like, he gave up his adult film career to pursue his dreams of being a wrestler, whatever the fuck he would say, right? But what can you say with Pac? What can you say about him? You know, he's pissed off. He's a bastard. Like, that's, you say that once, and then what are you going to say next? You're going to say, oh, Pac should have hooked a leg there. This shouldn't be like this. The referee should try to get control of the situation. The referee's a jobber too. Everyone's a jobber in this company. That's pretty much all JR brings to the table, honestly. So, with that being said, the next match we had was a tag match. It was Private Party versus Dark Order. The winner of this gets injected into a triple threat tag match for the tag titles at the pay-per-view, motherfuckers. So this match was actually all right. Private Party won by, like, they did their little silly string move, the spot where the guy skins the cat on top of his partner's back and DDTs the other person. And then they hit the gin and juice, which is one of my favorite tag finishers right now, and pinned Stu Grayson of the Dark Order. Now, the problem I had of this match is that there is no need for this to happen whatsoever, right? The pay-per-view was just around the corner. Like, this match cheapens the last week's match for to crown the inaugural champs. It would have made much more sense since Dark Order got a bye or something like that, right? You have like someone beat them, right? And eventually like that team loses, or, you structure the tournament in such a way where, let's say, for example, like SCU and Lucha Brothers like end up in a draw or something along those lines. Or you structure the tournament so that 3 teams come out of it and the tournament ends logically at the pay-per-view, right? Because this means nothing now. Now it's like, all right, like, why would it matter if Lucha Brothers lost? They're going to get a rematch in 2 weeks, apparently, right? So what was the point of that? You crown it at the pay-per-view and you give the fans like a real moment, hopefully. So, but the match was all right. I'm not going to say anything bad about the match. Then we had the women's match, motherfuckers. This was a complete waste of time. The women's champion, Riho, is like one of the worst wrestlers ever, man. This girl cannot do the moves. She just isn't coordinated enough to athletically perform the moves that she's supposed to perform. When she pins someone, it looks like a 7-year-old could kick out of it easily, right? It's just foolish. So it was her and that, like, not Bea Priestley, but the other one, the other fat one, right? Versus like Shana from France, Portugal, wherever the fuck she was from. They never cleared that up. And Emi Sakura, who like comes out with a microphone and a mustache. And I didn't understand what the fuck she was doing until they pointed out today that she's a big Freddie Mercury fan. So whatever, right? She's the number 1 contender. At first I was thinking to myself, why is she number 1 contender, right? She sucks. But she did win like a match on like AEW Dark or something. She beat like 3 broads. So all right, that's kind of cool. You could say she earned it, right? So immediately you knew how this match was going to end. Emi Sakura was going to pin the champion to further their impromptu like 3-day feud, right? So that's exactly what happened. And it was stupid. Why anyone would give a rat's ass about Emi Sakura versus Riho is beyond my comprehension. Britt Baker, who I don't like either, but I think she's undefeated in singles competition. Why doesn't she get a title shot? Where's Awesome Kong? More on that later, motherfuckers. Then we had the return to TV of Shawn Spears, and he wrestled Brandon Cutler. It was a complete waste of time. They showed, like, apparently on AEW Dark, which I haven't watched this week's AEW Dark yet. Apparently on AEW Dark, he attacked Joey Janela for one reason or another, and he was going to pull his tongue out, which was ridiculous. Of course, he's not going to do that. That's not even how it works. You can't pull the tongue out. You have to cut that son bitch. But anyways, so Joey Janela comes and makes a save after Ty Dillinger wins by hitting the running Death Valley driver on the Ultimate Jobber, Brandon Cutler. That's it, though. Nothing happened. There was no, like, fight or anything. Joey Janela just makes a save. They had this promo, this backstage, like, segment with Brandy, who's drinking, like, a glass of wine, which is already a mistake. She should be drinking brandy, motherfuckers, to kind of give off, like, a little ha-ha, tee-hee, poke to the ribs joke in there. And she just talks about how, like, with her brains, which I don't know, has it been established that Brandy Rhodes is a smart woman? Like, has this ever been established? Like, if it was like, Dr. Britt Baker, who's like a doctor who's well-educated, not that being well-educated means that you're smart, obviously, it doesn't mean that at all, but at least there would be some foundation to hang the hat. Or even like the librarian, be like, all right, she's like a bookworm, so she's smart. But Brandy Rhodes, she's like, it hasn't been established that she's smart. So she's like, with my intelligence and Kong's body, we could do a lot of things. And I'm like, yeah, it's just going to be Kong beating people up. Don't act like you're contributing anything. You're essentially latching on. And the entire point of the promo was that Brandy's not latching on, that she's not here because of her husband. She's here because she's underrated. But she's going to be completely latching on to Awesome Kong. So this was like just a complete waste of time. And it proves once again the many similarities between Triple H and Cody Rhodes. They're all about putting themselves over. They're all about actually no, because Triple H doesn't even do that anymore. Triple H puts other people over all the time. I don't think Cody Rhodes has willingly ever put someone over. He's of course put a lot of people over in WWE because he was a jobber, but now I don't see it happening, man. Even Darby Allin, Darby Allin took him to like a time limit draw. Which I'm just like, why don't you just like let Darby Allin beat you? Like if you're not going to beat him, let him beat you with like a roll up or something, right? To establish him. Nobody in this company has been established at all. Like if you tuned into the first episode of AEW and somehow you did not know who Jericho was, right? You would be like, oh, he's the champion, but like, who did he beat to become champion? Oh, he beat Kenny Omega, the guy that loses every week, and Adam Page, the guy who is exactly like Kenny Omega and also loses every week. Wow, what a champion. That's just great, isn't it? So if you didn't know who they were, you would not be enticed by this whatsoever. And if you somehow kept tuning in after the first week, if you didn't know anything about wrestling, you would be like, man, like nobody here is being established, right? It's except for Jericho, everyone has like significant losses to their record. And I guess you might say excluding like Pac and John Moxley, but they haven't had that many matches. Like John Moxley's had like I think 2 matches, right? And one of them was against Joey Janela, so it doesn't even count in my opinion. And Pac, even though he's won like 1 million matches, for some reason, Cody Rhodes gets the title shot. It makes no sense. I thought wins and losses were supposed to count. So if you're a fan and you're watching this, you're like, what the fuck is going on? It's a bunch of 5'6" guys pretending to be champion, you know? So that's what I had to say about that. It reminded me because not Brandon Cutler, Sean Spears came back, and after losing to Cody, he was gone for a month. This guy was completely buried. And like, of course he's going to beat Brandon Cutler, but what is he going to do? Like, realistically, what is he going to do? Like, there's one wrestler that is going to have an opportunity to actually be elevated if and when they introduce the mid-card title. The winner of that is going to get an elevation just by being a champion, right? Everybody else is a jobber except for Jericho. Everybody else feels like a jobber except for Jericho and Cody, who has, his rise has been inorganic. His rise is completely derived from the fact that he has controlling, I don't want to say controlling interest because I think they don't even own anything, but he has creative control over his character and clearly over the booking, because no objective individual would look at this roster and say, yeah, it's going to be Cody Rhodes now. Give Adam Page a fucking rematch. Give Kenny Omega a rematch. Things people want to see, you know? But if you give Cody Rhodes a title, this is going to be a fucking disaster, motherfuckers. Next, what do we have next? Did we have the main event? I think we have the main event next after this. I might be missing a match. I don't think I am, but I might be. So in the main event, it was the Inner Circle, Sammy G and Jericho versus Hangman and Kenny Omega. The match was exactly what you would expect. It was like take the first match, Trent versus Pac, multiplied by 2 in a tag match, and then remove one of them and add Jericho instead to make it more interesting. And that's what you had here. Nothing special, nothing to kill yourself over by any means necessary. So the match ended after like 1 million instances of interference, culminating with both Jack Swagger interfering and Pac coming out and low-blowing Kenny Omega. Low-blowing Adam Page. This I actually liked because this actually furthered the very brief feud. They're going to present it as if all this feud has been going on since the first episode. It hasn't. It's bullshit. They've interacted like 3 times. One of them was a match. The other one was like they talked shit to each other. And then today. So it's not a very well-booked feud at all. And if it continues this way, the company's going to fail by far quicker than like TNA ever failed. So basically what happened is after that, Jericho hits Judas Effect and pins Adam Page once again, motherfuckers. Then after the match, we get like the stereotypical brawl to end the event. MJF comes out. Eventually, John Moxley comes out from the audience with a barbed wire bat to attack Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega gets the barbed wire broom, which I guess he had stashed under the ring for some reason. And they do like a little stare down. And then, here's where it gets stupid. LAX comes and attacks them both. Why would you do that? And, like, the Inner Circle has no beef with Dean Ambrose. Why the fuck would they make a new enemy, right? It makes no sense. Especially when their other enemy, Kenny Omega, is about to fight this monster with barbed wire weapons, right? Why would they go and punch him in the face? Just let them destroy each other. Problem solved, right? So it went out of control. Eventually, one of the Young Bucks climbed the rafters, if you will, or whatever, and he did like a front flip onto like the rest of the crew, and they all kind of fell. The fans lost their mind, and the fans are the fucking worst motherfuckers. During the women's match, when Emi Sakura pinned Riho, they showed this like female fan in the audience gasping, being like, "Wow, how could Riho lose to Emi Sakura? How could Riho, the girl that I didn't know 3 weeks ago, how could she lose to this other girl that I didn't know? Wow, unbelievable. I can't believe it. Not Riho. Like, she reacted as if China had lost to, like, Cherry. You remember Cherry from the Deuce and Domino tag team? She reacted like that. I'm just like, this is ridiculous. So that's what the show was. It was garbage. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about some other news that pertains to this. And a few little points here. Number one, Randy Orton signed an extension with the WWE, motherfuckers. Obviously, anyone with more than one brain cell knew that Randy Orton was not going to sign with AEW. He did that just as a tongue-in-cheek moment so the fans can whack their bags a little bit and maybe to put a little bit of extra pressure on WWE since his contract was coming up, and he can be like, yo, don't forget about me, because they kind of have forgotten about him a little bit, and now he can be like, don't forget about me. I'm fucking Randy Orton. He's only like 37 or 38 or something like that. So he's definitely got time, like AJ Styles is like 42 or whatever, and he's still going. So Randy Orton has a few good years left in him, motherfuckers. So, that, like, I had no doubt that he was going to re-sign with WWE. There's no way they would ever let him go. He's too big of a draw. He's over still. He's awesome, right? So, but with that in mind, right, it brought up a point in my head. This argument that WWE holds people back. Now, I don't believe that's true, because look at Cesaro, right? There's moves that he did in the indies that he doesn't do anymore, but he still does awesome moves. Like, he started doing the swing more consistently. He started doing the Swiss 1-9, motherfuckers. So this guy completely innovated and still does awesome moves. Or even Seth Rollins or AJ Styles does every move AJ Styles does now. He's always done. There's not one move that he had to, like, stop doing, except maybe the Gonzo bomb that he did in Japan for like a month and a half, right? So everything, like, they only limit the shit wrestlers. Like, they always, like, even Sheamus, for example, does a lot of moves, right? John Cena does a lot of moves too. I know 5 moves of doom. He does a lot of moves, man. I can name them. I'm going to make a list one time of, like, all the moves that I've seen Cena do versus all the moves that I've seen Nakamura and Finn Balor do. But that's neither here nor there. So how is it that the only people that are held back are the people that are complete jobbers? And now let's pretend for a second, right? Let's pretend, because there is a little bit of an element of truth to this, in the sense that WWE cannot push everyone because there isn't enough time and enough room, right? So, like, people like CJ Parker, or whatever the fuck his name was, or Juice Robinson now, CJ Parker in WWE, like, that guy's going to be held back because his role was a jobber. He had like 5-minute matches, so of course he's going to be held back. Like, there's no time to showcase him, right? He's the jobber, right? Or Trent Beretta, people that can do moves and are not horrible wrestlers, right? That were not showcased in WWE. So let's assume that these people are better now because in New Japan and other indie federations, let's call it what it is, they are able to do more moves and experiment and kind of, like, become more complete wrestlers, right? Let's just assume that for 1 minute, right? Now, the problem I have with this argument is, if that were true, who's to say that if you were to take Randy Orton or Roman Reigns or John Cena and put them in New Japan, who's to say that they also couldn't do what Juice Robinson did, right? Who's to say that John Cena couldn't then introduce like 50 moves into his repertoire and have 7-star matches with Tanahashi or Takahashi or whatever, right? Who's to say, man? Like, the implications here are this: that WWE has an amazing star like CJ Parker, and they just don't know what to do with CJ Parker. And people like Randy Orton and John Cena and Big Show are holding back the young talent. They're holding back CJ Parker. Yeah, it could be that, motherfuckers. Or it could be that WWE looks at CJ Parker and thinks, this guy will never be a main eventer. This is a complete waste of time, so we're going to make him a jobber, right? John Cena, he's going to sell a lot of shirts, so we're going to make him a main eventer. And we're going to have him have the majority of his career have these, like, relatively safe matches because we need him around, motherfuckers. This guy wrestles, like, back in the day, Cena would wrestle like 200 plus times a year, right? And he would bust his ass and, like, seldom get injured, He got injured a few times, don't get me wrong, but rarely compared to, like, in New Japan, Hiromu Takahashi, whatever the fuck his name is, the ticking time bomb, like, gives a fucking dumbass name, right? This guy has, like, 3 matches a year and then gets injured in a freak accident because of their stupid ass wrestling style, and boom, out of the company for like a year, man. And now he's gonna come back. It's like having Tommaso Ciampa. Every wrestler is Tommaso Ciampa. Like Shibata, that Shibata guy, he headbutted someone, like, for real. He, like, shoot headbutted them, right? His career is over now. What the fuck? Why would anyone want to see that? Why the fuck would I want to see a grown man headbutting another grown man? Like, for real, and getting hurt. That's not what wrestling is, dumbasses. So that's what I'm saying, right? Who's to say that if you were to take, let's say you took, do you really believe that if you took a prime Booker T, like Booker T in the year 2002, let's say, right? And you put him in 2002 in New Japan, do you really believe that Booker T would not have a superior like wrestling career and superior matches than any other guy from WWE that has in fact gone to New Japan? Of course he would. He's 7,000 times a better wrestler. Do you understand what I'm saying? If John Cena went there, he would win every title in New Japan at Wrestle Kingdom, and he would have the best matches of all time. There's no reason to think that John Cena can't do what Will Ospreay. I mean, of course, he can't do the high-flying moves, but everything else, he can do it. He can lift people up. He can do the Stormbreaker. He can do all these things that, like he can do what Okada does. Of course he can. Who's to say that Randy Orton cannot do every move that Okada does better than Okada? The difference is Randy Orton doesn't need to do those moves because Randy Orton wrestles 200 times a year, and he cannot do like diving dropkicks 200 times a year. If you're Okada and you wrestle 8 times a year, and he's been champion for like a year. I'm gonna look it up. He's been champion for like a year, and he has defended his championship like 3 times or something. You know what I mean? So like, how does that make sense? You know, how can you expect the same 2 different wrestlers to have the same exact type of matches, considering that their schedules are completely different? Here it is, motherfuckers. Okada. He's held the title for 214 days, and he's had 4 title defenses, motherfuckers. 4. Only 4 title defenses. Now, that comes down to what? Like 50, like 1 defense every 50, what? 55 days or so, more or less, right? So, think about it. Like, that's pretty much, and then he'll have like, if he's not wrestling in those 4 matches, he'll have another 4 or 5 matches where it's like a 10-man tag match, right? Well, he'll wrestle for like 3 minutes. So of course, this motherfucker isn't gonna have to like worry about that kind of stuff. So that's what I'm saying. The idea that WWE holds back people is ridiculous. WWE just gathers everyone, determines who's good and who's not, who has potential and who doesn't, and then takes those people and pushes them correctly, right? Sometimes people are gonna fall through the cracks. Of course, there are people in WWE history that should have gotten a better treatment. This goes without saying, right? There's been times when there's been a lot of good people on the roster, and some people have fallen through the cracks. So, for example, Drew McIntyre, the first time around, he obviously fell through the cracks. So, like, all right, this guy, like, he didn't pan out the first time. Let him go. People forget about who he is. He comes back. He's like a serious dude now. So, there is room for that. But the vast majority of them are just not that good, motherfuckers. That's all I got to say about that. And yeah, motherfuckers, that's what AEW was about this week. I'm sure a lot of the people here are people that at one point were held back by WWE, like Pac and Trent Beretta. And here they are now. Here they are now, not being held back. Completely indistinguishable from one another. There's a reason why Trent Beretta was held back and why Pac was held back. Because at the end of the day, if Pac is unhappy with his spot on the card, get the fuck out of the company. That's why we have Buddy Murphy to take your place immediately, or Cedric Alexander, or a number of other cruiserweight type dudes, right? That's the problem, motherfuckers. And till next time, and next time might be soon, motherfuckers, this has been the Hater telling you to go and fuck your own asses.